There are over 110 leaders in the One Piece card game, covering all variety of playstyles, meta viability, and fun. This video is going to break down the best decks in the game at this moment, provide some new player picks, and recommend some decks that I just think are fun. This is which One Piece deck is for you for the new set OP12 Legacy of the Master. The easiest way to get a quick overview of a deck is through its color and broad playstyle. Each of the 6 colors interacts with different mechanics and have different options and staples. Red is the color of aggro, having a large pool of rush units, power manipulation, and the ability to flood the board with cheap, low-cost units. Green is the color of board manipulation, having free unit resting, free unit playing, and the ability to restand extra Dawn. Blue is the color of control. You consistently have the best removal options and draw power in the game. Purple is the color of Dawn manipulation. You can get extra Dawn each turn, and do anything if you pay Dawn itself as a cost. Black is the color of KO removal and graveyard recursion. Yellow is the color of life manipulation. Anything is possible from healing, burning, stun, or rush, but it just has to interact with life as a mechanic somehow. After the most recent ban list knocked out the previous best deck, Blue-Purple Luffy, and the decks that built up around it, the current meta is now very green favored, with new green staple cards like Mihawk Blocker, Dead Man's Game, and Bonney Secret Rare giving these decks new life to take on the format. So the decks that are currently popular tend to have counters to the best 2 green decks. Overall though, this format is still being explored and experimented with. Do be aware that the next set will see a complete shift in what's good, and rotation is getting closer. So this format, while great, is very temporary. What new player picks I have this format try to reflect that the best I can. These 7 decks are the combination of the best performing decks and the most popular world picks. First up is Green Zoro. Green Zoro has the simple effect of getting a free restand after attacking a character, so built-in board control and aggro at the same time. While this is already good on its own, making this work are cards like Tashigi, which both rest an opponent's character and then attaches 3 Dawn to leader, making Zoro's leader effect absurdly consistent and easy to use. This is made more consistent thanks to the 2 slash searchers this deck gets to run. After that mid-game pressure, this deck has a variety of finishers with Hody Jones, Dead Man's Game, and another leader restand event. It just makes pushing for game absurdly easy if you have the right matchup. Elsewise, you'll just have to focus on your secondary powerhouses like Mihawk and Cavendish. Zoro is an absurd deck and the best green has been since the first set, with the only downside being that it's a bit too straightforward and a bit too expensive thanks to Cavendish, Mihawk, and the older green staples. Still, this is one of the top 3 decks in the format, if not the best. It's also an easy recommendation to a new player, for that new player who wants an easy but maybe not a cheap intro to the competitive game. Aggro isn't the only meta playstyle available to green this format. Bonney is a stun-focused late-game green deck. Your leader has the ability to, on your opponent's turn, rest a Dawn, to then rest one of your opponent's characters your leader, slowing down the game so your options can control the overall tempo. Middle game options like Bonney, Carrot, and Cavendish can fix your hand, freeze an opponent's unit, or throw you ahead in value. Late game, you have some combination of green top end, like Captain Kid to lock out an opponent, Dofi to lock down an opponent's board, Shanks to clear a threat, and of course, Mihawk to flex in the other options. Bonney is a deck about using simple options to steer the game into your favor, so you can blow out opponents late game. It's a bit difficult to get a hang of, but it's an infinitely rewarding deck to play, and one of the top 3 decks in the format. It is going to be a bit expensive needing Cavendish and a variety of green staples though. Shanks is a leader with the ability to give an opponent's card minus 1k power on their turn. While it might not seem like much at first, it effectively saves a card from hand, guarding each turn. This makes it into the perfect delivery vehicle for just a lot of good red cards. Rush Luffy for immediate aggro pressure, Lucky Rube, Ben Beckman, and Rayleigh for easy removal, and the Shanks top end for powerful finishers. That leader ability lets you get away with running a higher number of bricks, not to mention the new Shanks blocker, which turns bricks into 2k counters. It's just a bunch of good cards in a deck. I do believe the control build shown here is the stronger version of the deck, however, there are multiple ways to build it. Shanks is also an expensive deck, needing some secret rares and structure deck cards from different decks. Shanks' straightforward, simple yet powerful units make this an ideal choice for a new player starting the game. Plus, you can get started with some starter decks. I do recommend it for that. Of course, that's with the caveat that budget isn't going to be a major issue. One of the most interesting takes on aggro is the new Silver's Rayleigh. For the cost of not being able to run a 5-cost or higher unit in your deck, you get constant buffs from your leader, and access to these insane free events. I mean, I say free, but the cost is actually just buffing your leader, which is insane for an aggro deck. Not to mention, these events do everything from searching, to more buffing, to turning off blocking, to being used defensively. It's actually insane, and if you use them well, you can do anything. Supplementing this is a collection of the best chump units in the game, most of which will draw you extra cards, search, or give you rush immediately, letting you leverage your low dawn curve into a constant board of plays, quickly ending an opponent. It's a lot to manage, but very fun to play and a really cool innovation for how aggro decks can work in this game. The deck is overall moderately priced. While there aren't a lot of cards in this deck over $5, there are a lot of $3 to $5 cards, which add up very quickly. Blackbeard is a leader with the ability to turn off an opponent's on-play effects, at the cost of being unable to play them himself, basically reducing the game back into the earliest sets when the game was in a much simpler place. And Blackbeard has the tools to win in that format. Jesus Burgess swings for insane numbers, Kuzan gives him card advantage and value, and Blackbeard just has a ton of removal events. This is set up for chain dropping its win condition card, 10-drop Blackbeard, who negates a character, a leader, stops the character from attacking next turn, and is a 12k blocker. Just winning the game if you can set up for it right. While a great deck, Blackbeard has two main problems. First is struggling with aggro decks, and second is requiring a lot of game knowledge and skill to pilot. Since your leader skill takes a discard to use, you must know what on-plays an opponent has, and when to start using the effect. Also, you have consistent hand filtering each turn thanks to your stage, meaning constant major decisions that can lose you the game immediately. Still, Blackbeard is a great deck if you're willing to invest the time into it. Also, it's very cheap. Green-Purple Luffy is a Straw Hat based aggro deck. The gimmick is your leader and Sanji Pudding create extra restand at dawn each turn after going dawn -2, letting you quickly flood the board or go for game easily after some setup. Strengthening this is a variety of flexible tools like Rush Luffy for aggro, Luffy Taro for board building, or Gum Gum Giant for the best survivability event in the game. This already seems good, but backing it up is more than half the deck having search or draw effects. This makes it to where a skilled player should always be in control of how the deck operates. Green-Purple Luffy is a bit expensive, needing the Rush Luffy Secret Rare and Sanji Pudding. Green-Purple Luffy, despite having generally good matchups across the board, isn't popular right now due to struggling with the best two green decks in the format. Kuzan is an interesting gimmick leader. He turns any Navy discard into an extra draw. This lets a player make use of 6 sets of bad blue Navy support and become one of the most consistent decks in the game. Navy options like Sakazuki, Aramaki, and Kuzan give building pressure and, more importantly, cycling. The finishers using Monkey D. Garp to double up on any Navy top end and outswarm an opponent. You also get access to the classic suite of powerful blue options like Gum Gum Red Rock, Charlotte Pudding, and Gravity Blade Raging Tiger for the best removal in the game. While this is all really strong, the problems come from the lack of an immediately strong board presence and having weaker units compared to other decks. So a Kuzan player has to make the most possible with its cycling, making it a really interesting deck to play. It's also very cheap to pick up. Next up is my new player picks. For these, I've tried to focus on 3 factors: easy to pick up and learn with, price, and longevity. Of course, not every deck here excels on all 3 levels, but each deck here can give you something, and I've tried to spread out the colors as much as possible. It's also worth noting that if you don't mind waiting a few months, Cavendish, Rush Luffy, and several other staple cards are getting reprinted, so they should drop in price and more decks will become accessible. Buggy is an odd leader. He, for 5 Dawn and a discard, lets you play any cross-guild character from your hand. This means once you hit mid-game, it's now late game, and you get to throw out a series of massive 7k bodies that also play other units, quickly building out a board and shutting down an opponent. There's 2 pieces I'm going to highlight. First is the 7-drop Floodgate Buggy, which prevents all 3 and 4 cost units from attacking. This shuts down aggro decks entirely. And secondly is this deck's win condition of 10-drop Buggy, a 12k body that removes any one unit. However, unless you already control a full board of high cost units, this Buggy will also bottom deck itself. So that's the game. Try to flood out a board as quickly as possible without having a proper early game. It's very unique and surprisingly strong. However, this deck has 2 big weaknesses. First, it's very fragile. If an opponent can break your board or stop you from setting up, it's over. Second, this deck is very dependent on hand advantage, so you have to play tight. Still, if you can manage these things, it's an easy recommend. Plus, Buggy is very cheap as well, needing only 2 starter decks and a few very cheap upgrades, making it a fun starting point for players to pick up the game. Belo Betty is an older, more straightforward take on aggro decks, having a leader that buffs your board and then swings for massive numbers. Betty is recommended here over Rayleigh, as it is both significantly cheaper and much easier to learn than Rayleigh, even if a bit weaker into the current meta. Plus, the Revolutionary Army support has a future home in a later Saba-based deck. This deck does have some very powerful, unique aggro tools, such as Karasu, who can decrease a leader's power, the Ivankovs, which spam play extra units, unique rush options, and a Revolutionary Army stage to keep things consistent. It sets up a board and then tries to end the game as quickly as possible. It's a very fun leader. This deck goes low very quickly on hand size and needs some thinking on how to balance attacks and preparing to attack, but it's quite fun and an easy recommendation for a new player. Kalgara is a unit spam yellow deck. This leader works by on attack, playing a Shandian warrior equal to or less than your total Dawn, then taking a life to hand. It translates to being able to throw out 2 massive bodies on 4 to 6 Dawn, something that's very hard to deal with. Mixing in with this is the insane power offered by the Sky Island engine. 5 cost Kalgara is an extra draw each and every turn he sticks out, and the wipers constantly get searches by playing and looping the upper yard stage, making for an insanely consistent deck. Also, there's a lot of healing and defensive events. For new players, this is a very fun recommendation, and he has been featured here before. However, the price tag is a bit higher than I really want, solely due to the card Kuma. He single-handedly adds $120 in cost to this deck, but without him, this deck can be purchased for under $10 to $20. So, as a compromise, I recommend running this Katakuri blocker from an older Big Bomb starter deck. It's not as good in Zoro, but it enables some extra defense and synergizes amazingly with Katakuri's leader ability. Kalgara also has some other options you can mess with, like 10-drop an L, Rush Ace, or any number of the wacky Sky Island cards. So do tank my template and experiment with it, it's quite fun. Yellw Captain Kid is a hybrid aggro tempo deck. His gimmick is turning supernova units into blockers, meaning difficult to handle units like Basil Hawkins and 7 cost Law are going to be forcibly brought to the forefront. An opponent has to interact with them. If that's not enough, you have all manner of strong generic yellow cards to manipulate life, like Kikanojo and Ace for healing, and Nico Robin 8 cost Kid for burning. It's disgusting value. Really though, Captain Kid is a delivery vehicle for aggressive yellow staples, since his leader effect gives us some cover. It's very simple to pick up and very fun to play with. While it's not the most budget option, it's not going to break the bank since it doesn't require Kuma, depending on the build. This deck also has some longevity, since it builds into the future yellow supernova deck, Bonney, and that also plays into why it's recommended here. Katakuri is a purple value deck. Your main gimmick is getting to check the top card of the opponent's deck whenever you attack or are attacked. Then you have a bunch of cards that give you amazing value for knowing what the top card of your opponent's life is. things like extra draw power, extra defense, and even removal. It's a cool deck that uses solid purple cards to do a lot. Now, its biggest strength is going to be memorizing what the opponent has in hand and pivoting the playstyle around that, but luckily for a new player, you'll be fine with just checking the individual card, because those generic effects are really good. Purple Katakuri is also very budget, not needing any of the more expensive purple staples. But the biggest thing is the future support this deck is getting, which will keep it relevant for a long time to come, making it a very solid place to start if you like purple decks. This last section of decks consists of those that I recommend. Decks that might have been too hard or too expensive to recommend for new players, too unpopular for meta and rogue, or maybe just a deck that I think is neat. These are what Monkey recommends. Recently freed from his ban list prison is Sakazuki. This leader has insane card cycling, insane cost reduction, and a combination of the two most synergistic colors in the game. This deck seeks to constantly remove an opponent's board each and every turn through the use of black staple cards like Brook, Jack, and its own unique removal option, Hound Blaze. It's an incredibly nuanced deck that has to work overtime to make up for its 4 total life, because any aggro that gets through will just end this deck's existence. And that's where Sakazuki is in this modern format. A lot of the best tools in the game, but barely keeping up with the modern game. Sakazuki does have 3 big cards on the ban list, and the general philosophy of black card design has shifted away from cost decreasing as well, making him a bit harder to pilot overall. Still, it's an easy recommendation since this unique playstyle and options isn't quite offered by any other deck, and I think the right player and right options will open up a lot. One of the most toxic leaders in the game is Koala. You see, your leader effect burns opponents every time they play an 8 cost or higher, and whenever they play a character with another character. Combine this with forced discards, life healing, and removal, and you have an obnoxious deck with every possible counter to every deck in this game. Well, of course, that's only if you can see the correct card when you need it, because usually this deck is going to be floundering with the wrong key for the wrong lock. That's what makes this deck so interesting. You as a player have to decide how to assemble these non-synergistic options to go against the meta and still try to outmaneuver the whack edge cases. It's genuinely my favorite color combination. Koala is an easy recommendation for someone who likes deck building with weird but powerful cards. Blue-Purple Sanji is a brand new playstyle to this game. Characters are a secondary option, and instead Sanji tries to play the game by spamming events and attacking with leader. This deck gets to spam powerful value events for free like Boof Burst, Brochette Bro, or Concasseur. Events that function as removal or defense and draw power. You get to also run Gum Gum Giant, so your survivability is always ensured. Just absurd consistency across the board here. Now, the deck does run a few characters to round out the strategy, 2Ks of course, but also a Reiju and Sanji, which gain power and other effects for having events in your trash, so you can still smack down an opponent when needed. Overall, Sanji is a very unique deck that doesn't play like anything else in the game. It does struggle a bit to find a home in the current meta, but it's a hard deck to overlook because of just how cool it is. After getting hit with a double choice restriction, Blue-Purple Monkey D. Luffy has rolled back into being cool again. Your goal is to hit late game, then abuse your broken leader effect to search one card, stack your draw, and set up for additional effects like Sanji. It's a late game powerhouse that is just better than most other decks late. The downside is you can't handle aggro in the slightest, so you need to very carefully handle your early and mid game with the most just meh options imaginable. It's a cool trade-off being in complete control late game, but with none early. And it's worth mentioning how the sheer power of Luffy Leader's effect means anything in blue and purple is possible to set up. The engine is very flexible, and there are many other builds that are now more valuable and worth messing with since the objectively correct options are banned. Currently, the most popular and the most meta build is very removal focused, which makes sense given its more pressing need to stabilize. But there's a wide variety of options like the Doflamingo package that are worth exploring. It's a surprising recommendation from me here. Shirahoshi is a can't attack copium leader, with the ability to play an extra Neptunian type card each turn. This during the mid-game floods the board with very solid fish units, and quickly preps several 6 to 7k swings at an opponent. In this format, new yellow and green staples push what this deck can do, and 2 new Shirahoshi cards actually buff this deck's options. A new 2 cost gives removal protection, and a new 4 cost enables these fish to attack characters on the turn they're played. Just ignore that $40 promo price tag. I love how Bandai is merging the formats with no plan whatsoever to handle equal promo distribution in different mini set designs. It totally doesn't jack up deck prices and make this game inaccessible at all. Shirahoshi is a fun and unique leader that offers a unique style of gameplay. This strategy does have a ton of holes, but figuring out how to patch those holes is where the fun is. It's an easy recommendation. Carrot is a green board control deck. Your leader ability turns off blockers and forces an opponent to play conservatively early game. This deck also gets the unique stage Though, which grants a free extra Dawn each turn, and a free Mink character restand, which can outmaneuver an opponent's options. The deck benefits absurdly from the new green support, such as Mihawk, Deadmans, and Bonnies, having direct and unique combo lines with each of these cards. The deck also performs uniquely well into aggro decks and other green decks, putting it in a very solid position in this format. Just ignore the consistency problems and the difficulty to play with its playstyle. Overall, Carrot is my personal favorite deck at the moment, and it's very fun to pilot. I'll have a new deck profile out soon for it, so it's an easy recommendation. Kinemon is a Land of Wano aggro leader. You get to play one Land of Wano type character for a reduced cost each turn. The wording works to where you can use this effect, then effectively bank it for later in the turn. This matters for characters like Mihawk Blocker because we will be flooding the board. What Kinemon does with this ability is spam out a variety of insane plays for set 2, such as Okiku turn 1, Yamato double strike banish for 3 Dawn, and Odin double attack for 7. Plays that are not good now, but pretty scary 2 years ago. As such, you'll need to bluff your way through every game and pretend like you know something an opponent doesn't, as well as use the very limited support this deck has received 2 years too late. Overall, Kinemon is not good, but a very fun deck which I recommend committing to. I would go as far to say that Kinemon is the greatest deck ever made. That's all for this episode of Which One Piece deck is for you. It's a very fun meta this format, and it's going to get even crazier going into the next set in a couple of months. I'm looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe so I know to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.